friends. Welcome to Dads and Daddies, a podcast about the lives and times of adult gay men in the here and now. I'm Brian Rubin Sowers, the dad.
And I am Judson Morrow, the daddy.
Hi, Judson.
Brian, what's going on, dude?
Not a tremendous amount. I saw you only 2 days ago, so...
But, lucky me for the frequency.
Yes,
That's
and
so
lucky me, of
sweet.
course. How have you been in the last 48 hours?
I've been really well. I went, so my husband's father lives in Sheepshead Bay, which is a neighborhood in Brooklyn that's 7 subway stops away from where we live.
Yes.
Also in South Brooklyn. And we went out to brunch with him and my husband's brother. And it was really sweet because it just reminds me to slow the fuck down. My father-in-law is 95 years old, and his mobility is pretty good, but he's just really, really slow.
Right.
So to get him from one place to another, you're keeping pace with him. And it's almost like work to move that slowly, but I really appreciate it. My body slows down, my brain slows down. It's a really, really good way to, I think kind of recover from how quickly we move all of the time. And he's always super gracious for the time spent. We have a great relationship. I love spending time with his dad. But I particularly like and enjoy just kind of slowing down a beat.
And you sent a review via text of Sheepshead Bay.
Oh, I love Sheepshead Bay. I love Sheepshead Bay. I think it is it's very well appointed, meaning it has good restaurants, it has bars, it has coffee shops, it has all the things you need in terms of shopping, but it's not, I don't know, certain neighborhoods in Brooklyn are too Brooklyn. I don't know if that means anything to people who don't live here,
right?
But it's they're just too much.
Yeah.
They're too self-aware. And Sheepshead Bay is just doing its thing.
Right.
It's also on a body of water called Sheepshead Bay. And it's beautiful. His retirement village is across the street from the waterfront. It's amazing. I love it down there.
I might need to spend some time with him to force myself to slow down.
Also hot Russian dads. Yeah. And the plastic surgery on the women is very, very good. I'm who's your doctor?
Wow. So many reasons.
So many reasons
to spend time in
visit.
Sheepshead Bay. No, I have been asked by family members who come to visit to slow down, like physically slow down on the sidewalk when we're walking somewhere. And I find it very tough to do. Like you said, it's work to slow oneself down. But as my retina specialist said to me the other day, it seems it's necessary for me to find ways to slow down. So maybe I should start volunteering to take some time with your father-in-law.
One of the things that I have taught myself to do too, to slow down, is if I'm coming out of the subway and the person in front of me is too slow, according to me and me only,
right? I
try to match my footfall to theirs. So then I start concentrating on their footsteps and it slows my body down. It's very, very cool. I mean, sometimes I'm oh my God, how can you move this slow in New York City? But for the most part, it's just maybe a beat behind what would be natural for me. And it gives a nice pause.
I mean, that's such a nice way of just looking at the world because I only see it from
your perspective of hurry the fuck up.
Yes, I have somewhere to be.
You're in the way.
This is not how we walk up and down stairs to the subway or from the subway. When people are on the longer escalators and somebody is standing on the left.
No, the left is for walking.
The left is for walking.
True. You stand on the right and you walk on the left,
yes.
Period.
But I like the approach of not viewing it as an impediment, but as a challenge to oneself to slow down. I think that's really kind of beautiful and smart and healthy and would probably help me overall just approaching life that way.
I mean, let's not get it twisted. There's also the other half of the time where I'm oh, fuck this. And I just breeze past them on the left. Right. But if I have the time, I'm gonna match them and see how this goes. And, inevitably I get exactly where I'm going.
Sure. I'm never not in a rush.
Yeah, no, I know that about you. I've been thinking so much about your eyeball. I think that's crazy.
It is improving. My eyesight is, and I might have exaggerated a tad, like, which I actually only just realized. I tested myself. I was in the shower and I closed my right eye. I'm not blind in my left eye, but I cannot read, like, unless the writing is
Font
very
30. Yeah.
large. I picked up the bottle of Dr. Bronner's shampoo that we have in our.
Oh, come on. That's like font 4. Like, no one can read that
No,
even
but
when
like
their eyesight is good.
all I could see was like the header, which is, I don't know, in 24.
Yeah.
But when I was doing the eye tests in the room, my right eye I could read almost everything, and then even like the top line with my left eye, I was like, oh no, I don't know what those say. But that's not to say I'm blind. But I yes, my vision is definitely impaired in my left eye due to stress, but it is improving.
Yeah, I mean, hyperbole or not, you got to find ways to slow down. Are you still taking time on the Shakti?
I am still taking time on the Shakti.
Critical.
I really do try to do that daily.
Every day.
I really try. Sometimes it gets away from me. I'm also trying to do it just listening to music, because many times what ends up happening is I do it at the end of the day as I'm going to bed, but my husband is in bed with me. So what we've been doing is putting on a show that I don't mind missing the visuals for, just a talk show, specifically Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, because I don't actually need to see what they're doing. I just need to hear what they're saying. But I'm not sure that has the full effect, shacking and listening to Andy Cohen.
I think you're supposed to, any show, like, I think you're supposed to, like, really get into the breathing while you're laying there.
And I do try to get into the breathing. But my go-to typically is just to listen to Madonna on random. And about 5 songs gets me to 20 plus minutes. And that is easier for me just to, like, relax and get into the breathing. So, yes, that has been my Shakti practice of late, and I try to do it daily. Sometimes I try to sneak in a second one sometime in the morning. I do love my Shakti mat.
Do you have a bathtub?
We do have bathtubs in this house, yes.
I mean, not very few New York apartments. I mean,
of
you're
course.
in a house, but like very few New York apartments have bathtubs. But
yes, we have a bathtub.
You should take a bath.
Yes, I probably should.
I love taking baths.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good for your nervous system.
I just don't know that it's big enough for me. I have used it to bathe my kids, and even they are getting to the point now that they shower. But yeah, maybe I should see how I fit in that bathtub.
You don't need to lay down completely in it. You just need to, like, sit in the water.
Okay,
that's my other holistic health recommendation for today.
No, I like that. Since we brought it up, I wasn't going to, but since we brought up the Shakti mat. Just a reminder to those of you who don't know what we're talking about, haven't heard the episodes where we've talked about our Shakti mats. They're an acupressure mat. It's essentially like lying on a bed of nails, but is somehow addictive. And if you go to their website, they have discounts that are stackable. So we have one. It's the code is Dads and Daddies 10, and that will, I believe, give you 10% off. And you can use that in addition to whatever codes they are also sending you for either being a first-time customer, or there's a code usually on the top of their site. So add another 10% off your Shakti mat with Dads and Daddies 10.
No, thank you, Brian. That was sweet of you to get a code for everybody.
What is also sweet of us is to throw a party for everybody.
Yes. So sweet. So noble.
No, what was sweet is that our fairy godfather, Daniel Nardicchio, came up with this idea and asked us to throw this party with him. So we're very excited. If you are listening to this episode on the day that it comes out, on March 18th, we're only 10 days away from Dads and Daddies Pod and Party, which is for dads, daddies, and every kind of son.
Every kind of son.
It is at the Cockpit, downstairs from Red Eye, New York, at 355 West 41st Street in Hell's Kitchen, New York City. It was also the site of our first live show. And the way this is going to work is that at 7 o'clock that night, we're going to have a live podcast recording. And then at 9 o'clock, we're going to throw a party, the Dads and Daddies party. The party dress code is underwear or less, but the clothes check won't open until 9 o'clock. So if you want to just come for the podcast recording, You will keep your clothes on. Everybody will, except for maybe those of us on stage. And we haven't decided yet. And if you come to the podcast recording and are there before they close the doors to that at 7:15 and want to stay for the party, you can stay for the party for free. If you only want to come to the party, it is $20 in advance, $30 at the door, and tickets are available now at redeyetickets.com. So we hope to see you there.
I can't wait. I'm really excited. It's going to be a really fun time.
Yeah. I can't wait either. Want to take a break and talk affection?
Let's take a break and talk affection. Welcome back, listeners. So I don't know how news is delivered to your phone, but I often get these clickbait articles that are like, these are the top 6 signs of an emotional manipulator. These are the top 8 things you need to say in a business negotiation. And one of the articles I got the other day were like, these are the 11 things you can do to show affection. And I was like, isn't that just like holding hands? And it was really nice to like read through this article and see all of the things that I didn't think of as like signaling affection, that once I read them were absolutely true. The one thing in particular that I really liked was undivided attention, which in today's modern era is so important, right? It's like we're trying to get our partner's attention while they're like on the phone, talking, chatting, looking at shit, watching television. I just love the idea of undivided attention as a way of showing somebody affection.
Yeah, that's so important. I really try to prioritize that, especially when it comes to my kids, that I want them to know that as long as it is an appropriate time, they're not interrupting a conversation, that if they're speaking, that I am listening to them. I always want them to feel listened to and heard. But yeah, I mean, so much of that time is me having to pull myself away from a screen of some sort or another, largely because of work. But that's so true. Undivided attention. I love that.
How do you indicate to your children that they have your undivided attention? Like, how do they know? Because you're not like, this is my undivided attention.
I mean, just turning my body towards them and looking them in the face, and even if needed, because there's so many times that this happens in a situation where there are other people around, or even just the 4 of us, we're a family of 4, there's always crosstalk happening, looking at one of them and saying, okay, and I'll name them, I'm listening to you, what do you want to say? And so actually telling them, you have my attention.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. You have my attention. You have my attention.
Yeah.
That's great.
How important is affection in your relationship?
It's important in all of my relationships.
Yeah.
Like not just with my spouse. I remember when I lapsed on drugs last May, we were very quick to
2 Mays ago.
2 Mays ago. 2 Mays ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
We were concerned about like getting back to sex quickly as a way of like reclaiming normalcy. And I remember speaking with our couples therapist, and we said like, hey, we're holding hands, we're cuddling on the couch, we're saying nice things to each other. It's just like we haven't had sex yet. And she explained to us that the physical affection and like the kind words were the more important component of relationship building, and that the sex will be there when we get there.
Yeah.
And I'm never gonna forget that. I never felt like I was forcing the intimacy with my husband. It felt very natural to sit on the couch and touch, caress, say nice things. But it was nice to know that that was in essence leading to the rebuilding, and that the sex would wait. So for us, like we're a pretty physically affectionate couple. Like we hold hands on the sidewalk, we hold hands on the subway, we cuddle on the couch together, we spoon in bed together. I think affection in physical terms is really important to both of us, and I'm so grateful. Like there are certain nights that we're spooning in bed, and I think to myself like, oh God, I'm so glad that like 14 years on, like we're still this kind of affectionate with each other. I remember when I was, oh God, this was so long ago. I was probably 20. It was like the summer between years of college, and one of my high school boyfriends who had moved to Savannah, Georgia, was in the area visiting his family. And we were laying in bed together, and we were cuddling, and I just said to him, "Do you think our parents still cuddle?" And he goes, "I don't know. That's like a really good question." And I thought, yeah, I'm going to ask my dad. And my dad and I didn't really have the relationship where I was like, "Dad, do you cuddle with mom?" But I asked him anyway
Yeah.
the next time I saw him. I said, "Dad, do you and mom cuddle?" And he said, "Are you asking if your mother and I still engage in sexual activity?" And I was just like, oh God, like what a fucking dad way to answer that. And oh, I said, "No, Dad, I'm actually asking if like when you go to bed,
Yeah.
do you like hug each other? Do you like cuddle in each other's arms?" And he goes, "Judd, your mom and I work very hard. When we go to bed, it's time to sleep." And I just thought that was like so sad.
Yeah. We also prioritize affection, physical affection in our home. It's not something we speak about. It's not something we've discussed, but it's also always come very naturally to us. And of course, there's the affection between Toby and me, and then there's the affection with the kids. Toby told me, and I'm sure I've said this before, very early on in our dating, that he does not cuddle and he does not talk about his feelings. And I think I even talked about this in my vows at our wedding, and that I was determined to change both of those qualities. Of course, you can't change somebody, but you can. And
you can.
The truth is, he has become much better about talking about his feelings, and that I think the truth is he actually does like to cuddle within certain parameters.
Right.
Cuddling on the couch while we're watching TV is no issue whatsoever. It's like, not unlike your dad, I think he wants to be able to go to sleep, and he's not somebody who can spoon in bed. But there are nights where I will come over for a cuddle and we'll hang out cuddling for a little bit, which is lovely. But what I will say is that we never, or very, very rarely, do we go to sleep without the last thing being, "And I love you," and a kiss goodnight.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes we will just air kiss though. I'm like, "Good night."
Yeah, yes.
Like I'm already turned over and I'm like, "Good night, honey."
For the most part, it's an actual kiss for us. But yeah, no, it's funny. I forget. Oh, we did our kissing episode, and while I prioritize kissing and hookups to a larger degree than you do, you and I are both largely on the similar page around kissing in terms of enjoying it and needing it and wanting it.
Yeah, of course. I love to
Toby
kiss.
said, not that we should have, but that it would be interesting to have some like a counterpoint on the podcast. And so what I'm realizing is we don't have somebody here who's necessarily anti-affection, and it would be a curious. I don't even know if somebody would be anti as much as somebody who just doesn't
need it as much.
Need it, yes, exactly, or participate in it as much. We're a very affectionate couple and a very affectionate household, and it's something I loved from Toby from very early on. I feel like we used to hold hands in public more than we do now, but I don't know what that evolution was about, other than just moving past the honeymoon era. But
I mean, you're also trying to like keep kids in line. I don't know if that's the right wording, but you're like supervising your children
for sure.
while you're out as a family.
When we're with the kids, each of us are likely holding a hand of one of the kids, especially when we're in crowded sidewalks or crossing a street, stuff like that. So yes, that might have something to do with it. But I'm even talking about when it's just the two of us. But when we are seeing a show, seeing a movie together, we almost always hold hands through those. And it's funny because we've started to see more and more shows and movies with the kids, and the kids are in this phase, which I understand, where they quote unquote don't want to sit next to a stranger. So, they have to be sandwiched between the two of us. And we've started to ask them like, "No, can you sit over there? Because I want to sit next to your dad because I want to hold his hand." Because that's how I'm used to. It feels very funny to me when I go see a show with a friend, or if the two of us have gone to see shows with like another couple of friends. If there have been times where we've gotten split up by the other people, and I've had to like keep myself from holding this person's hand because I'm so accustomed to that.
That's so sweet. And I can relate to the stage that your daughters are in, because I took my nieces to see a Broadway show and they were like, "I'm not sitting by someone I don't know."
Right.
It's like, oh, well, I spend my whole life sitting next to people I don't know. So fine.
So as a couple, our affection shows up as first thing in the morning. We always have a check-in where, we alternate who gets up with the kids every day and who takes them to school. And so whoever comes back will check in with the other one and get a sense of how the morning went with the kids. But it always starts with a kiss and a good morning. As we talked about last week, it almost always begins with him complimenting me on how I look. You had talked about how compliments are also a form of affection.
Mm-hmm.
We say I love you with every goodbye if we're like parting to go somewhere. Hugs happen randomly all the time. Like I said, we cuddle often when we're watching TV together. I will give foot massages sometimes while we're watching TV because I know that's something he loves. I don't say trade foot massages only because I am not someone who appreciates a foot massage.
Yeah, and also it's just like you don't want it to feel like there has to be like reciprocity necessarily.
Right.
It's like nice to just like be of service and like take care of the person, and then let them just because I don't know. There's nothing more annoying to actually. There's a lot of things more annoying to me, but to like get a massage and then have to turn around and give one, it's like fuck.
Right.
I just want to sit here.
Right. Fortunately for Toby, I'm not one for massages from
That's clutch.
Friends or family. If I'm going to get a massage, it needs to be from a paid professional.
Fair, very fair.
Obviously, we have our weekly sex date. So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of just kind of like natural affection in our day, and all of it feels very genuine. The I love yous never feel forced. They certainly don't come at times when we're feeling angry with each other, but
course
they come,
not.
Quite often, and certainly at least twice a day, if not more. And then with the kids, I tell the kids I love them. We both tell the kids we love them all the time. It's hard sometimes just to like look at them without saying it. They're very special kids to us, obviously. But we start every morning with a hug and a kiss. They know my kids that I need a good morning hug and a good morning kiss. First thing, kiss on the cheek, of course. Last thing before bed is an I love you and a hug and a kiss. But again, we hug all the time. We also have this I love you sign language, which is just pointing to the eye, pointing to the heart, pointing to the other person. So I love you.
Oh, that's cute. Little family code.
I
mean, not hard to decipher, but still code for a family. Like, I think if I saw someone do that, I'd be like, got it.
And you can do it really quick too. So it's just like a quick
cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see that.
Swirl.
Swoop.
And so every morning when we drop the kids off at school, there are windows at the end of each hallway at their school. And so we drop them off. They go inside. Their classrooms are on the second and third floor. So they will walk up to the second floor where the younger one's classroom is. They'll both come to the window, and then we have to do all the sign language. The funny thing is there's a whole group of parents, each doing their own version of the same thing. So at some point, somebody's got to film this and just put it on TikTok. All these parents doing this ridiculous sign language. It doesn't mean anything to their kids.
Child in the window.
Floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
It's really sweet. It's really sweet.
I don't remember. I'm sure we said I love you as kids to our parents, and my mom was pretty affectionate, but it's like we rode the bus.
Yeah.
So I was like, bye.
Yeah.
Get on the bus. Yes. See ya.
Yeah. So I mean, affection within the family is very important. But I mean, you were saying affection is important in all your relationships. So how does, and we've talked a little bit on the kissing episode too about approaching friends with kisses, but how does affection show up for you in friendships?
Undivided attention is definitely one of them. Now that I know that is a sign of affection.
Yeah.
I don't even have to try. Like, I think my friends are really engaging. So when they're talking to me, I'm like down to listen.
Right.
Physical proximity is a big one for me. Like, if we're sitting on the subway together, like our knees are touching, like I'm touching them. I hug my friends. I kiss my friends. I'm just a physically affectionate person. I like all of those things in return. But I also understand that, like, I can think of the friends as I'm talking about this who, like, aren't as affectionate in return.
Right.
And I don't interpret that as, like, they're not into it. It's just, like, it's just not their personal brand or their personal style.
Right.
But then I have friends who are also, it's funny because you hear those studies. It's like 2 Italians talking will touch 50 times in one conversation, and 2 Americans talking will touch 0 times in one conversation.
Right.
I touch a lot, right? I mean, I've even said before that for me, like when I'm at work, I have to physically restrain myself from touching my colleagues because it's a way for me of saying like, I see you, I hear you, I'm engaged. And I have to actually like think about it
Right.
because there's just not a lot of space for that anymore.
Right.
Which is sad because it's like dehumanizing.
Oh, for sure. And then, so I also want to talk about affection in hookups, but one thing you said made me think of affection while cruising and or with strangers, like sitting on a subway next to somebody that you find attractive and like wondering if they are also gay and into you, and like are your legs touching? Like, do they realize your legs are touching? Like, there's kind of nothing hotter than that moment.
I actually, one time when I used to live in Jersey City and was riding the PATH train, this is like a crowded rush hour train, and I was standing in front of this hot guy, and I was like, I'm just gonna fucking push my dick in his face. And he like nuzzled my dick with his face like during rush hour traffic. And it's funny because they have those announcements on the train that are like, a crowded train or no excuse for an unwanted
You're like,
touch.
Well, for me it might
but
be.
I was like, he leaned in, like he came in for it. But I was also just kind of like, what the fuck are the people sitting beside him thinking right now? But like, I don't care. It was hot.
Was there ever a word exchanged?
Not a one.
Wow.
Not a one.
Were you hard?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I couldn't keep myself from getting hard in that situation.
Yeah. It was so hot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like hotter to me than like any porn.
This is crazy too. There was one time I was coming home from the city and it was very late. I'm going to say like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was just me and this other guy. So I jacked off in front of him. And then when I got off the train, I wiped it on him.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's that.
And that's affection.
That is affection. He seemed very appreciative. Yeah.
Wow. Risky business.
Public transit, folks.
I mean, that's a whole topic for another episode.
The nightmares of Fox News. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, exactly that.
So like, this is what the gays do in public.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
But there was like a whole cat and mouse, you know what I mean? It's like for this guy who I like jacked off in front of, it's like I spread my legs a little bit and I was wearing these little basketball shorts and then I started rubbing. It was almost like the sauna cat and mouse.
Right.
But we were like sitting across from each other and I definitely got like buy-in.
Right.
Because he was doing the same thing.
Right.
But like he was in jeans and I was in shorts, so it was easier for me to like access.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it does play better when you give more details. It
of course.
Like
it's like,
you
I just jacked
a
off.
crazy person. I mean, like to some people on
I just
this, you might sound like a crazy person,
at
but
a complete stranger with no buy-in. No, that's not what it was.
Right. Thank you for the
my pleasure.
The explanation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for allowing me the space.
Yes. So speaking of, affection with strangers or people that you've just met for sex.
Again, it's like pretty easy for me. I, like you, in earlier agreement, like to kiss. I like to hug. I like to touch. It's not required. Like I will definitely do like a hotel anon scene, sure, if I'm like in the mood for that. But I like affection within hookups, and for me, it's like there's a boundary. Ever since we had the conversation about the way that we interact differently with like single people and married people, I've actually taken the jump to just explain to everybody like, hey, I'm married, I'm open. If you're into that, like, let's keep talking. And once that gets established, I feel very good being affectionate because it's been established that like it's part and parcel of the hookup and not anything more than that.
Right.
So I feel very good being affectionate within my hookups. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I like getting it in return.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's we've talked about on many an episode. It's a requirement. You know, I need to put myself in that fleeting intimacy, imaginative play date, whatever you want to call it. But that scenario where I feel that there is in the moment affection and romance like that, it's not hot for me without that. Yeah.
I mean, we had a hookup recently where my husband and I both daddied this guy, and it's like I was sort of like leaned back against the bed frame and he was like leaned into me and I was hugging him while my husband like gave him a hand job. And it's like, that's very affectionate.
Yeah.
Right. Because like I could have been doing nothing at the same time. But instead, like the daddy in me, it's like, I want to hold you and take care of you, while my husband, also a daddy, takes care of you in another way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm definitely really affectionate.
So, I've mentioned before that I'm writing a book and, largely about marriage and parenting. And so as part of that process, I'm reading other books largely about marriage. And the one I'm reading right now is called Fight Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very interesting that one of the things it talks about, it's very scientific. They figured out all of these formulas. They've done all kind of research that the way a couple fights can really predict the longevity of their relationship, their marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Like literally within the first few moments of a fight, they can tell you how long you're going to stay married. And what they come back to over and over again is that the ratio of like positive interactions needs to far outweigh, negative interactions.
Oh, in general.
In general.
Like outside the context of fighting, inside the context of the relationship.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, both, yes, within and without. It talks about having just check-ins with your partner and how those check-ins can be as simple as, responding to a text or, like Toby and I are constantly texting each other.
Yeah.
Which I think also are a form of affection and really necessary in terms of like maintaining that relationship. And it just makes a lot of sense that like the arguing, the fighting, all of that, like just becomes so much less a serious issue if on the other end you're constantly like checking in with one another and showing affection in all the various ways.
I've revealed before that when my husband and I argue, which is really rare, I appreciate what you said about the ratio of positive interactions to negative interactions. Our negative interactions with each other are next to zero.
Yeah.
Right? Like we do fight right, and we just don't fight that much. But we do have established that we can't go radio silent. Like we can't just ice each other out. So even if we are upset with each other and then we physically separate for a time, like we have to go to work or we have other plans with friends in the city or are just going to exercise, it's like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. I'll be back at such and such a time. Like that is a form of affection, because I think to ice someone out is like anti-affection. It's it's very, very hurtful. But if you have the practice of communicating pretty regularly, I don't know. If I were to go through my text messages with my husband right now, they're so like logistical, tactical.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of like sharing of news or any. And from time to time, like a thread or an Instagram, but also
a severance theory,
a White Lotus theory. Sometimes I will just like save those things to show him at home.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, I'm out and about. Like, how critical is my need to share this with him during his workday? Probably like 0%. So I'll just hang on to it, and we can like talk about it over dinner.
Right. I share them during the day because at dinner time we have two other people,
two children
in attendance who need our attention and our affection.
Who need to be paid attention to. I understand.
Yeah. And so what about those relationships where the other person does not have a comfort with affection?
If they don't have a comfort with affection, I want to respect that. This is not something that I need to force onto them. Like if it's, I'll take that back a little bit. Like with my dad specifically, like he would shake our hands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm like, Dad, you're my dad. Like, give me a hug. Like, I would force it with him, and he would hug us, right? But his go-to would be like a handshake, which seems so cold.
Right.
But it's also like that was like his level of showing affection.
Yeah.
He also was like good with words. Like he would say, I love you, I'm proud of you. So it's like, on the one hand, like you're uncomfortable with hugging because you're like the son of a coal miner. And on the other hand, it's like you're telling your adult children that you love them and you're proud of them. So it's kind of like accomplishing the same goal.
Right.
Like, we don't want to be like, have our cake and eat it too. Like I need all these things from my father. But because it was my own dad, like I would push for it a little bit.
Right.
With friends who are not as physically affectionate, like I can read that pretty quickly, and I get it. Like I totally get it, and I just respect it, and I express affection in the way that I know how and feel comfortable, and then I also just will take whatever they are comfortable with in return. It's not a big deal for me.
Yeah. For me, I think it's more about the fact that I don't know maybe that I'm as good at reading it, or it's just that, like, for me at this point in my life, approaching somebody with a hug, even somebody that I've just newly met, is just the natural go-to.
Same.
I think that's our generation, that just like at some point it evolved that you hug the people that...
Our generation of like gay.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, because I don't like dudes aren't just like, hey man, hug.
But aren't they? There's like, I mean, they have their version of it.
To their friends, but like not to like a stranger. I don't see two guys like meeting for the first time and like hugging. But
Right.
Two gays will hug.
And so it's those situations where I find myself like, oh, I'm mid-hug, and I realize, oh, this is not somebody who like is, all that comfortable with this. And then you just have to have an awkward moment, I guess.
Nope, you double down. You pull them in tighter. Rub their back. Yeah, absolutely.
What else do you want to say about affection?
That I think it's really important. And that I think there are many, many ways to show affection that aren't just like kissing on the lips, right? It's undivided attention, it's good communication, it's holding hands, it's touching, it's saying nice things. It's it's manifested in so many different ways, and they all add up.
Is there anything you want to say to somebody who's listening who is maybe somebody who wants to find more of a comfort in being affectionate than they have?
Oh, wow. Oof. That one caught me off guard. If you
Sorry.
No, that's really good. If you are a person who wants to be more affectionate, wait, do they want to be more affectionate, or they want more affection from other people?
I don't know. I mean, I was thinking of somebody who like is one of those people I approach with a hug who doesn't really know how to receive it or want to receive it, and maybe wants to be more comfortable when that happens because it happens to them a lot. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, we can address both, but developing maybe more of a comfort if that's something that you want, or, and also asking for it if you're not receiving what you need.
Well, in this situation, like I do think consent is huge. Like when I said like double down and start rubbing their back, like I'm only half kidding. But we do reap what we sow. So we kind of get the affection that we put out in the world back.
Right.
Like, and it's always okay to ask someone.
Yeah.
Like, can I hold your hand? Can I rub your back? Can we hug? Can we hug?
Right.
Like, I love that. Can we hug? It's like, fuck yeah, we can hug.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
We can also kiss. Sure, let's do it. No, but I do like, can we hug?
Yes.
Yeah. Like if you want to lean more into affection, just like ask someone, like, can I give you a hug?
Right.
Love that one. For someone who wants more affection in their lives, be on the lookout for affectionate people, right?
Well, and open, honest, direct, right?
Open, honest, direct. If you don't necessarily have a romantic partner or sexual partners who are all that romantic, like look for it in your family, look for it in your friend sphere, and surround yourself by the people that like you see are physically affectionate. What would you say?
It's hard for me to put myself in that place because I thrive on it, and I've raised these kids. I mean, my younger one especially is constantly just looking at me and saying, I want to snuggle with you, or I want to cuddle with you. Or
no, your kids are really affectionate.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it also, the issues are in the tissues. Like if we didn't receive a lot of affection as children, we don't necessarily know how it's like modeled.
Right.
So you kind of have to like just be out in the world kind of paying attention to how other people do it.
I mean, to the degree that I worry that we've modeled it too much, if that's possible. Because my younger one, I mean, we had Jeff Hiller here the other day, and by the time he was leaving, my younger one was just clinging to his leg. Because, she'll
very sweet.
Go up and hug. Yeah, I mean, it's very sweet to those of us who are open about affection. But I don't know. She is. Do we have to restrain her in any way or teach her restraint?
Yeah, he didn't seem to mind. And
no, he didn't.
I also think like in the situation where it's like an adult and a kid, like, just give the kid attention.
Sure.
Like, get over yourself.
Right. Yes. But I just mean in her life. Like,
yeah. I get it.
Do I need to educate more on, like, the do's and don'ts or the whens and when nots? But maybe not at 6 years old.
Yeah, I don't think you have to look too hard at yourself like, "Oh, I taught my kids to be too emotionally affectionate." Like that's not
Right.
that's not anything to beat yourself up over.
Yeah. Okay. Should we take a break and come back with Go Ask Your Dad?
Let's take a break and come back with Go Ask Your Dad.
Okay.
Hey, listeners, welcome back to Go Ask Your Dad. This is the segment of the podcast where we respond to listener questions. Just as a reminder / disclaimer, neither Brian nor I are mental health professionals. We're just two out gay men with a lot of experience in the big gay world.
If you want to submit a question to us, please email dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. You can also DM us on Instagram at dadsanddaddiespod. You can go to our website, dadsanddaddies.com, and submit it there. If we use your question, we will send you a Go Ask Your Dad cap. And don't forget that voice memos turn us on the most. Today's question came to us as an Instagram DM, and it is, due to being generally slutty online, I get a lot of guys in my area reaching out wanting to connect through socials. I have interest in meeting up, but some guys send messages like, "When are we meeting?" over and over, especially when I make a post. How do you navigate the pressure of meeting? I often feel like it borders on harassment because I will give a polite response explaining that I'm busy, but the same question will keep getting asked.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God, I don't know if this is like advice, but this is just my general practice. I don't really have like a slutty online persona, but I do feel like sometimes online people like push it. And the more that they push, the less interested I am. It's weird. It's like I wanted to connect quickly, but then if it's just a chat, I think the reality is that we have produced a society / culture / practice where we kind of ignore it, right? Which is, I'm not saying that's the best thing to do, right? Or like the best thing for you mentally or the best thing for them as an emotional interaction. There's a part of me that wants to say, hey, like, lean into open, honest, and direct and say like, hey, I really appreciate the attention. I'm not interested in meeting up. But I also wonder like if that's that necessary. What do you do? Like, do you say like, I'm not interested, or do you just like ignore it?
It's funny. I have one person in particular who won't stop messaging me, who at one point I blocked on one platform, but he has since found me on all the others. And I have thought I've made it clear that I just don't think we're compatible. I think we've discovered in other conversations that we want different things out of this. And he just continues to say hi, and so I've just stopped responding at this point. What I wasn't clear about this question is whether these people who are reaching out on socials, if they're looking for a hookup or if they're looking for a social meetup.
Oh, I kind of read it as a hookup.
Okay.
And I actually like what you said just now. I don't think we're compatible, but thank you for your interest.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was a social ask, if people are saying like, hey, I've seen you on the apps, now I see you here on whether it's Instagram, whatever, can we just hang out? I don't know. One idea that occurred to me is that you just say like, hey, I'm going to be out at these places on this night. You know, if you see me, come say hi, and not make it like a formal date, and so that you don't feel like you're blowing somebody off necessarily if that is feeling rude to you. But I do think to some degree, Judson's right. At some point, you just have to let it go, ignore if you do run into these people in the real world, give them a smile and a hello, but, you can sure make it clear with body language, etc., that it's not going to go any further. And to some degree, we always say, or we don't always say, I've read it, that, you can't control other people's actions. You can only control your own reactions. And so, just do your best to let it not annoy you and let it slide off your back and ignore. And hopefully those people will finally get the message. If either you're not comfortable saying like, listen, I don't think this is going to work out. I don't think we're compatible. I don't think we're looking for the same thing. Or if you have done that and they haven't heard the message, I think you got to just take care of yourself.
I think what's also like partially at the root of this is the fear that if you do run into them in person, you will have thought, oh, I ignored them and now we're here together in person. I don't think they're going to press you on it in person. It's a
Right.
lot easier for them to press on you when they have, even though it is socials and like you have your face, you have your body and those two. There is some anonymity and safety of like pushing through a screen. I think the fear that if you do ignore them and then see them in person, I don't think it would necessarily escalate.
Right.
And like Brian said, you can also be like very kind and just indicate with body language or words that it's just not going to go any further than that.
Yeah, no, what you're saying is absolutely true. I mean, I think about that as, in my work persona, that when I provide feedback, for instance, via email or Slack, it's much easier to be a little bit more direct, let's say, than when I'm actually, giving feedback live. I'm much more gentle. So, I agree with Judson that I wouldn't let that be too much of a concern. Thank you for the question. I hope that was
Great question.
helpful to you. We always hope to be helpful. Before we let you all go today, please do leave us a rating or review and a review before you leave the platform on which you're listening to us. We really, really appreciate it and really, really need them to help bring you bigger and better content every week. Also, check out the Dads and Daddies store on our website. We have t-shirts, tank tops, tote bags, beach towels, keychains, caps, pick up some merch so you can help us spread the Dads and Daddies love. You can also sign up for our newsletter on the website. And just one more reminder that on Friday, March 28th at the Cockpit below Red Eye, New York in Hell's Kitchen, 7 o'clock, we are going to have our second live show. 9 o'clock, we're going to have our first Dads and Daddies party. If you want to get tickets for the party and can't join us for the podcast beforehand, they are available now on redeyetickets.com for just $20. They'll be $30 at the door. And we really hope to see you there and party with you.
We really hope to see you there.
And for now, we'll say goodbye and we'll see you in a week.
See you in a week. Bye.